Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as we discuss transfer opportunities for Anthony Martial. Will it be the end of Anthony Martial? I know a lot of you think that it should be this summer. I'm not so sure, but will it be Anthony Martial leaving Manchester United this summer? And will it actually come down to what he wants? Also, a bit of a blow in relation to Alexis McAllister. Looks like he's going to be going to Liverpool. We'll talk about that. We'll also be talking about the sale of Manchester United and why the Glazers are stalling a little bit. Not a lot coming out since the Friday deadline. It's now Wednesday. What's happening with that? A fantastic, inspiring, motivating speech and hug from Erik Ten Hag on giving Garnacho his new contract. Fantastic. I'm sure most of you have already seen that as well. And a few other bits as well. None more so than Wout Weghorst coming out and saying he'd love to stay at Manchester United. He wants to stay at Manchester United, but no talks have started taking place yet. Take the message is what I would say. You know, it's a little bit, it's like not being invited to the after party, isn't it? You know, you've been invited to the first bit of the party, you're not been invited to the second bit. It's like going to one of them parties, which I've never been to, where you leave your keys in the bowl and no one will take your keys. Yeah, you're invited, but you're not invited to that bit, of course. You know, a little glimpse and then you're gone. It's like looking at the trailer of a movie, but not being invited to watch the whole thing, you know? You are the 1 minute section free view before you have to pay for the hard stuff. Yeah, it's. I like Weghorst. Somebody was on the watch along last night for the Arsenal Chelsea game, and they were saying, "Well, you know, why do Man United fans hate Weghorst?" I think it was a Liverpool fan. I said, "Man United fans don't hate Weghorst. Man United fans like Weghorst. I think we all like Weghorst. We just know he's not very good." There's a very big difference. I think Weghorst has been really well received at Manchester United, and you know, I think there's been a lot of loyalty shown to him because he's passionate. You know, we've seen him at Wembley when we won the penalty shootout. Nobody dislikes Weghorst. I think Weghorst represents us. You know, how bad can you be but still play for Manchester United? No, I'm joking. Look, he's not United quality. At the end of the day, he's just not Manchester United quality, and I think that we don't need to keep a player like that for next season. You know, I said it before. I'll argue with anybody about this. I feel that Ighalo had a better loan spell than Weghorst. He just was there under Solskjaer, and Weghorst is under Ten Hag. I think the difference is that we're a better team under Ten Hag with a much more positive season. When Solskjaer had Ighalo, it was a very negative season. So, but I think Ighalo actually did offer more than Weghorst, and I'd argue that. I think a lot of people would think that that's a silly take, but when you think about it, I think Ighalo did offer more. He just was in the wrong, the wrong time, really. Anyway, I don't want Weghorst to stay. I wish him all the best wherever he goes. Nice guy, lots of effort, but we know we've had this chat many times. Scott McTominay puts a lot of effort in. Do we want to keep him just because of that? You need talent and effort. That's been the problem at United. Anyway, back to the headlines. Hope you're all doing well this morning. Looking forward to the show this morning. I think we've got a massive game against Brighton tomorrow. And, Sir Jimmy Murphy statue being unveiled later on today at Old Trafford. We'll have the pictures up for you, that. Massive thing about our history. I think that's why I'm so buzzing today, actually, because... this is why I support Manchester United. It's because of my granddad, and it was all about the Busby Babes and Sir Matt Busby and Jimmy Murphy, and having a statue there is absolutely incredible. I'm not even going to say long overdue. You know, it's there. It will be there. It will stand the test of time, and future generations will get to see it and go, "Who is that?" And then they'll find out the story that I found out, and it just grabs you because that's what this football club is. So I think I'm just feeling quite nostalgically optimistic this morning because I love this great football club, and it's great that we're doing that today for Jimmy Murphy and his family, but also the football club. It's great, absolutely brilliant. Let's get on with the news. There's lots to talk about. I can see a few rats in the chat, so that means they want to talk about the ownership. We will talk about that, but let's start off with Anthony Martial. So look, there are stories coming out of Italy that AC Milan and Juventus would like to sign Anthony Martial this summer. That, for me, is the catalyst to Martial going. My issue has always been, I don't know anybody that would want to buy him. David, can I just say welcome to the Members Club? Thank you very much for joining. The Anthony Martial thing, is it the end of Anthony Martial at Manchester United? I heard that Sheringham was on about this the other day, and he was like saying, maybe it's time for him to go. Teddy Sheringham was saying that. Robert McCormack says Ferdinand inducted into the Hall of Fame. Well done. Well done. I don't really want to talk about that massively because I just think the Hall of Fame thing is a bit of a joke. I mean, well done to Rio Ferdinand and everybody else who's made it in there, but I do think it's a bit of a joke. I think certain players have been ignored, and I think at some point you've got to put Ryan Giggs in there. And I think, well, are they just going to, even if Ryan Giggs gets found guilty of something, are you just never going to put him in the Hall of Fame? I mean, what if he got found guilty and did 2 years in prison and came out? Redemption, rehabilitation. When are you going to put him in the Hall of Fame? He's got to go in the Hall of Fame at some point. Like, I just don't know. Anyway, look, that's a different conversation, and we don't want controversy on a Wednesday morning. But anyway, let's move along. We are talking about Anthony Martial. There is interest from Italy. Apparently, there's interest from La Liga as well. And the question is it the end of Anthony Martial at Manchester United? And I think I always like a poll. So we're going to do a poll on this whilst we talk about what the reality is. Should Martial leave this summer? Yes or no? I'm sure Erik Ten Hag will be asked this we're going to do the press conference reaction at lunchtime. I'm sure he'll be asked about this because I think it's... So, look, Erik Ten Hag's always been really positive about Anthony Martial, but he's also positive about everybody, isn't he? He's positive about Maguire. He's positive about absolutely everybody. So, do I think Martial's going to leave this summer? Well, it's a weird one because I think some people just go from day to day with their football opinion, and that's absolutely fine. Some of us bank knowledge. And the reality around Anthony Martial is, and I'm a fan of Martial, I can't pretend I'm not. Everybody knows I am, so I've got to be careful how I sort of word this, but there is a lot of people in the fan base that would like Martial to go. They think he's lazy. They think he's pointless. I completely disagree with that. I think Martial's very important in the team. But the problem this season is his injury record is ridiculous. And what we're trying to build at United, you can't rely on a striker that's not available for 70% of your games. And that's basically what's happened. You can't even have a second striker who's only available for 70% of the games. Some people would say, well, just use him as a bench player. But if he's still injured for 70% of the games. So that's the problem with Martial. Can he get over that? I don't know. And if he can't get over that, we need to sell him. But who would be stupid enough to buy him in that situation? Well, apparently there are clubs there. The big thing for me about Martial is, and yes, 74% of you said you would sell him this summer. The big thing for Martial with me is, it's not what I think. It's not what you think. It's not what Ten Hag thinks. It's what Anthony Martial thinks. I'll guarantee you now, if Man United buy Harry Kane in the summer, Martial will put a transfer request in. Guarantee it. He's done it before, and he'll do it again. He's fine when he's the first choice. We know this. But when he has the number 9 shirt took off him when Zlatan came in, and when another striker comes in, and like Cavani, he struggles with it. So, and I like Martial. I'm not criticising here, but I'm looking at the evidence. Nobody can tell me, fan or foe, in relation to Martial, and I'm a fan of his, and I think we do play better when he's playing, and I would start him against Brighton tomorrow. But when you buy a striker and he's not the number 1, he struggles, and he will ask to leave. So I think that this summer could be the end of Martial if there is a club willing to take him. I can see Martial leaving because he wants to. The big problem we've got here, and the one thing you cannot ignore, is that he's on around 200 grand a week. And he's got a substantial time on his contract. I think he's got 2 years, which doesn't sound that substantial. But you can't he can't go cheap. But his wages are ridiculous. I don't think there's anybody in Italy or Spain that can afford 200 grand a week for Anthony Martial for the player they're buying. Real Madrid and Barcelona ain't going to buy Anthony Martial, so that puts out everyone in La Liga. I can see a ridiculous loan deal here, which we can't afford to do. We need 3 strikers. We don't even need 1. We need 3. Replacement for Ronaldo, replacement for Cavani, and potentially for Martial. So we need 3 strikers. You can't be loaning one off and paying his wages to go and play somewhere else. So, look, if we're going to buy a striker in the summer, which we are, I don't think Martial will be happy and he'll want to go. The thing is, can he find a move? Because every player wants a move as long as they can go and earn the same money and they're not priced out of it. But how do you do that? So I think it's interesting. I've always said that I don't think he will go this summer because I don't think he's sellable, and I think Ten Hag likes him. But if there's clubs interested, it'll be very interesting. I love Martial, says Jax, but he isn't the calibre we need up top. How do we know that Sir Jim isn't getting a big payday from the Glazers to help increase Qatar bid? He could be part of the play. Will H is a bumblebee, says Jax. There you go. Well, we'll talk about the sale in a moment, but we just want to start off with this story about Anthony Martial because it is interesting that everybody says, should we sell him, should we keep him? 75% of you this morning are saying we should sell him. But it's not easy to sell him, and I think we've got to be realistic. I don't think there's a Man United fan out there that's going to sit there saying, let's sell Martial, Maguire, Henderson, McTominay and Fred and expect us to sell them. Like, it's a very difficult job for this club to sell players, and we just won't be able to sell that volume of player. Doesn't mean you're wrong for wanting it to happen, but as I say, I think the problem with Martial is injury history on transfer market is there for everyone to read, and his wages are way over what he should be on. He shouldn't be on 200 grand a week. So who's going to buy him? And we would want probably 30 million as well. Who's going to give Man United 30 million for Martial and then pay him, around 12 million a year in wages, 10 million a year in wages? It's just not going to happen, is it? And why would he take a pay cut? So I think it's problematic. Clarkey, not seen you in ages. Hope you're doing well. He says 50 million plus Martial for Lautaro Martinez, 50 million plus Sancho for Bellingham, 50 million plus Maguire for Kane. What do you think, Mark? Hashtag Glazers out. I think all of those are very logical deals, but unfortunately, none of them would. Atletico Madrid need a striker. Dortmund, unless we get Qatar, says Ben. Well, that's a very relevant point from Ben Mason because we run the club realistically because we know who owns the club, and obviously they're very money driven. If you had Abu Dhabi in charge of Manchester United, Martial, Maguire, McTominay, Henderson would be gone. They'd just go. God knows what we get for them, but they'd be gone because owners like that understand that when you're taking over a business that's not performing, you need to asset strip it and build again. And that's what people who've got the money to do it. And it's not because they've got more money than sense. It's just because if you inherit a pub and the decor's not right, the jukebox, the pool table need changing, the bar, the beers you've got behind the bar need changing, the Glazers would just make it run as it is. Al Thani, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia would come in, clear the whole thing out, get everything new in. It'll cost a lot of money, but then the customers come in and afterwards will make you more money because they're happier. That's what they'll do. And they've got the money to be able to take the hit and lose a bit of money at the start. And that's what you do. You walk into the club and you go, Martial, you're gone. Maguire, you're gone. And they don't worry about the loss because they go, well, I never bought them in the first place. That's the previous regime. I've got to speculate to accumulate long term. And that's another reason. Nobody will talk about it. But everyone talks about the debt. Everyone talks about the new stadium or the renovation of the stadium, the infrastructure, the transfers. But nobody talks about the biggest difference between Al Thani and Sir Jim, which will be the removal of players. Because when you're running the club responsibly, like Jim wants to do, then he won't let an asset like Martial or Maguire go for next to nothing. Because it'll be like, well, that's a listed asset. We've got to get a certain amount of money back. Whereas I think Al Thani would come in and go, I don't give a shit about a listed asset because there's no debt anymore anyway. The debt's gone. I've cleared the debt. The reality is Martial's not part of Ten Hag's plans, doesn't necessarily want to be here. He's on 200 grand a week. Let's just pay him 10 million and remove him. And they might do that. That probably wouldn't happen. They'd probably say, look, he's worth 30 million. Let's let him go for 20 million to Atletico Madrid, and the 10 million they've saved they can cover on his wages. And you just get on with it. That's what you do. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. 74% of you, should Martial leave this summer? Yes. So look, the writing's on the wall as far as the fans are concerned. I think the writing's on the wall in relation to the player himself as well. I think, as I said, if you look at Martial's history, he's asked to leave before. He doesn't like it when he's not number one. And if you're going to buy a Harry Kane, he won't be number one anymore. So, look, read into that. Whatever. I like Martial. I would quite like him to stay. But I also know his personality better than fucking these idiots on the telly who say he looks miserable. I mean, that's not relevant. He's a shy personality. He doesn't do media and brand work. He's not interested in that. He's quite a reserved, shy personality. I think it's bordering on the line of bullying, the way he gets picked on because of the way his face is when he's on the pitch. Nobody knows what it's like to be, reserved and quiet as a personality. And I think he has been subjected to some quite horrendous victimisation from the mainstream media. But we also know the thing I know about Martial is that when he's not the number one, he'll want to go. And so I think that's something to consider as well. Anyway, let's move on to something else. Let's talk about Alexi McAllister. And people will say, well, you've had a pop at Maguire and other people. Yeah, I have had a pop at Maguire because I think he's a crap footballer at times. But I want him to perform well. But I don't look at Harry Maguire and say, look at his face. I think the worst thing that people say about Maguire is his pace. He points a lot. But Martial's been victimised on national TV for years because of his face and the way he looks in relation to he looks miserable, he's lazy. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. But, you can get away with it. Michael, welcome to the Members Club. And tricky to sell big wages to Spanish clubs as they have such a salary cap, squad registration rules. Have to keep him, surely. He's class, says Jack. Be interesting to see what happens. Anyway, Alexi McAllister, bit of breaking news this. I always try and give you the little insights in relation to what the rumours are behind the scenes in the industry. I know a few agents, I know a few journalists. I said it last week that I'd been told Jude Bellingham to Man City was basically done. We'll see if that happens because it's contrary to what some other people are saying. But, we'll feed you the information. Alexi McAllister to Liverpool is apparently very, very close. Now, look, as United fans, we know how it works. Liverpool, whether you like them or not, and we don't like them because we're Manchester United, they are very, very good at transfers if they've got the money to spend it. But when they go for a player, they're fast. We saw it last summer with Nunez. We saw it with Fabinho a few years ago. We saw it with Gakpo at Christmas. They are fast when they want to get a deal done. Now, apparently, the Alexi McAllister deal, they are moving way ahead and quickly ahead. And whether you want Alexi McAllister at Manchester United or not, I'm afraid the reason I'm bringing this in is not because, we're a Man United channel, don't care about Liverpool, but he is a player that United have been interested in. Whether he's a high priority player or not, the reason Liverpool have moved ahead of Manchester United is because Liverpool have an ownership and structure that they can get working on their transfers now, whereas Erik ten Hag hasn't got a bloody clue what he can do beyond a striker. And ultimately, we're very lucky that nobody else wants Harry Kane because it will take all summer anyway to deal with Spurs, but nobody else can get him. So that is a sort of, it's a get out of jail card for United because Harry Kane's not going to go anywhere else other than United or stay at Spurs at this moment. Maybe if Poch goes to Chelsea, there's an outside chance of that. But Liverpool, they can crack on with their business. They don't need to wait until June. They've got the same owners, they've got the same manager, they've got their plans, and they're moving ahead. So whether United wanted McAllister, should get McAllister, or whether you don't want McAllister or you do want McAllister, the fact is Liverpool will beat us to him because they're better at us than recruitment anyway. And also, we're sat down at the moment. We don't know what we're doing, and other clubs do. Hi Mark, I like Martial, but he's injury prone. Says Govind, who's the backup striker we buy if he leaves this summer? I think he'll keep him for another year. There you go. I like a world-class striker like Vlahovic or Ramos, upcoming like Varane or Højlund, and a backup like Weghorst for our replacements. Thoughts, says Ass. I don't want Weghorst to stay. I like the guy. I don't want him to stay. I think he's. I'm trying to say this in a nice way. I think for a top 4 club, he's dreadful. He's not that standard of footballer. I think in a mid-table club, probably can do a job. In the bottom half, definitely can do a job. But as a top 4 player, bringing him off the bench, I think it makes us worse every time. I don't. And the thing is, he's not even good at what I would like him to be good at. Last 10 minutes, whipping crosses into the box. He's not even very good in the air. He's just tall. So I don't want Weghorst to stay. I really don't think I don't think he offers anything. And ultimately, we've not said this for a few weeks, but we need to bring we're trying to catch Man City. You don't catch Man City by buying players that they wouldn't let into their training complex. They turned them away. You know, Weghorst would turn up at Man City's training ground with a smile on his face and his nice car, and they'd say, no, you're not coming in. So we need to be like that. It's called being ruthless. Some people won't like this because they're like, oh, you're just being a horrible hater. Well, it's not about being a horrible hater. It's about being ruthless. And that's why we don't win the big prizes, because you've got too many people who are just, you know, cheerleaders in this fan base who don't remember what it takes to win. Would Pep Guardiola sign Weghorst? No. Would Klopp? No. Arteta wouldn't either. Why would we? We need to buy the best. That's what we're trying to achieve. What do you think happened to Maguire since joining? There must be some rhyme or reason as to why his performance has dropped, says Slow Sports News. He just doesn't suit the way the game's going, mate. I think when he first came in... Max, thank you very much for your super chat. McAllister's grandparents are from the north coast of Ireland. Good to get some Irish DNA back into this club, says Jack. Also got to look at some frees too. Yeah, he's going to Liverpool, mate, apparently. The issue we have is we need someone like him, happy to do a job but isn't the world-class player. I didn't say Weghorst, just like him, says Acid. Well, yeah, you need that sort of mentality player. Of course you do. Just go back to the Maguire thing. I don't know whether... I was talking about this on the watch-along last night, so it was That's Football, yeah. Matic did an interview, and some people latched onto it. The cheerleaders in the fan base latched onto it, the people that don't understand standards. And basically Matic, who was very bitter with United fans anyway, because there was that game at Old Trafford where the crowd were getting on his back telling him to pass it forward, and he got really angry about it. Some of you might remember it. So Matic has never really moved past that, I don't think. And he was basically saying that Harry Maguire in his first year was one of the best players in the team, and now he's not. And the reason for that, according to him, is because of all the abuse he gets. And I just stopped listening then, because I thought, hold on a minute. I've listened to Cristiano Ronaldo, Paul Pogba, virtually any decent player I've listened in an interview talking about abuse or criticism or whatever you want to call it, and they basically said, I don't really listen to it because I'm my own biggest critic. And the journey of a professional footballer from being a kid to making it to Man United is ridiculous. You know, from probably as young as under nines, they've got to fight for everything they get. You know, if they're not used to being benched or, you know, told they're not playing well, I don't think you make it. So I genuinely don't think that a footballer has lost their way because fans are saying you're not good enough. And also, why is it always social media or online fans that get the blame for this? I mean, did nobody go to watch football in the 80s and the 90s? Well, if you weren't born, you didn't. But I did. And God, it was horrific. It was horrific. Abuse or criticism of players has always been there. It wasn't invented on Twitter. Like, get yourself down to a football match at any level and you will hear criticism, abuse, whatever you want to call it, against players that aren't performing well. It always happens. It's always happened. And footballers have always had that. So I don't think that Maguire or any Man United player who's not good enough is not good enough because they, you know, have been told they're not good enough. They're not good enough because their talent's not good enough, basically. And Ten Hag picks Lindelof and Shaw and Martinez and Varane because they're better in his system. I think Harry Maguire is a decent centre-back. That can't be argued. I just don't think he suits Man United. He wouldn't suit Arsenal. He wouldn't suit Liverpool. It's interesting that Pep Guardiola wanted him because he doesn't suit Manchester City either. I often, I wish Man City had got Maguire. And that sounds like, someone's taking our rubbish. But I wish they had, because I'd love to see what Pep would have done with him, because Pep plays a back four. What I'm trying to say is Maguire doesn't suit a back four with a high line. He doesn't. He's too vulnerable. He suits a Spurs, a back five. He suits an Everton where they're playing a deeper line. That's where Maguire comes into his own, because he's good in the air. He's reasonable on the pass. He's quite physical. But he cannot work in teams that want to be mobile and press the opposition, because if he gets in a one-on-one with space behind him, he's vulnerable. And that's why he's fell off. Under Solskjaer, when Matic says he played well in his first season, I remember when Maguire was going to be out of the Europa League final and we were panicking. Then he got back and he didn't play that well. He did have a good first season under Solskjaer, he did. But we played very differently then. We played counter-attack, we played quite deep. That's Maguire's problem. What should be our realistic aims for next season, says Max? Well, it depends on what is going to happen with the transfer window, mate. So, and also, I think, look, I love the summer transfer window. I think, that's well documented, and, I'll be reacting to absolutely every story as we always do. Make sure you subscribe. But we've got a month of this season left. Asking me about next season is like asking me what the weather's going to be like in December on a sunny day in June. I don't bloody know. I've got no idea, and nobody does. We don't know who's going to own the club. Got no idea who we're going to buy, and we don't actually know what tournaments we're in yet. We should be in the Champions League. I don't know yet. But the biggest thing is the sale of the club, so I can't talk about that. All I can talk about is the next few weeks, really. We'll buy a striker, and that'll make a big difference, whether it's Harry Kane or Vlahovic, whether it's Højlund or Ramos or Osman. A quality striker of that ilk will make a big difference to this team, especially one that can stay fit. I want to talk about the sale briefly, but I just want to say as well, wow. I mean, I love Erik ten Hag. I think most of you do. There's nothing wrong with being critical about mistakes he makes, and I think he has made a few this season, but in the main, he's had an amazing season. I think it's incredible what he's done. I absolutely loved the clip that was out yesterday of Erik and Garnacho, giving him a hug and giving him a bit of motivation when he'd signed the contract. And basically what he said, if you've not seen it, and I'm sure most of you have, is that, you deserve this. You deserve this contract, you've worked hard for it, and it needs to be a motivation to go and get more in your career. But basically, I think it was a very, very clever thing from Ten Hag. Very, very sincere, very, very truthful, but also very, very clever, because it's a message to every youth player at Manchester United that the manager of Man United will give you that sound bite for millions to see if you earn it. And he said this at the start of the season. He said, it's not about being good enough when you're young. It's not about just giving young people game time. You'll get into my team and you'll train with the first team and you will get game time if you are better than what we've got. And that is why we've seen Garnacho start ahead of Sancho and Anthony at times, is because Ten Hag basically believes he's better than them at that moment in time. Whereas some coaches will promote a young player and just, give him, he's not quite ready, but give him 10 minutes and hopefully he'll learn on the job. Whereas Ten Hag is like, if you're good enough, you'll be in the team. And there is that message again. If you're good enough, you'll get a long-term contract at this club. And it's a fantastic message to the youth, because I think it's a change in mentality. Because as I say, a lot of clubs with their youth, they're like, there's a talented player in the youth. Let's get them training with the first team. Let's maybe get them 10 minutes at the end of the season and see. Whereas Ten Hag is like, no, that's not happening. You'll be in the matchday squad and you will start or you will come off the bench if I think you're better than Fred or you're better than Sancho on that day, on form in training, etc. He will only put them in the team if he believes they're better. It's not about blooding youth. He wants them to prove they're good enough. Samir says, unpopular opinion, Weghorst is a better third striker option than an unreliable, injury-prone Martial as a first striker. I disagree, Samir. I disagree with you, because I'm not comparing Martial and Weghorst. I'm comparing what Man City are doing. That's the standard. I don't want Weghorst to stay because he's not good enough. This is the cheerleader mentality again. Who's better, Weghorst or an injured Martial? I don't care. If Martial's injured, get rid of him and get rid of Weghorst as well and bring me somebody else. I'm not living in a world where I have to choose between Weghorst and Martial. This is Manchester United. This is why we want a full sale, because the standards need to go up. We should. It's almost like people look at Man City and say, I really hope we can compete with them. I hope one day we can. There's a different mentality in the fan bases where we should be competing with Manchester City. So if we should be competing with Manchester City, to do that, you need to bring in quality. And Weghorst is not that quality. And you're right, Martial's injury record is not that quality either. So you remove both and you bring in the quality. But that's only going to happen if we get a full sale, I think. Mark, you missed my previous message. Who are you leaning towards, Qatar or Sir Jim, or are you staying impartial? We need super wealth to compete, says Ryan G. And hi, Mark. To be honest, I think next season being more stable, regardless of owners, would give a lot more opportunity to the youth. Says Frank. Well, I'll repeat what I said, Frank. Thanks for being a member for 18 months. Erik ten Hag has spelt it out and evidenced it this season. He will not blood youth just because they might be a talent. He will only blood youth if he thinks they're better than what he's got in the first team. And I think it. You might get less young players coming through, but you'll get better young players coming through. He wants them to take on responsibility and be ready, and that's what he did at Ajax. Ricardo says, we need Qatar. I just want to see my club lift a Champions and Premier League title again. I always had a feeling Sir Jim was a fraud from the start, says Ricardo. I think where I'm leaning towards, you know what, I knew this was going to happen, and unfortunately, you've just got to wear it, I suppose. I had a few people messaging me yesterday, saying you're dividing the fan base by being anti-Sir Jim. And I'm like, I'm not even trying to buy the football club. There's only one person dividing this fan base at the moment, and his name's Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I'll say what I say. I feel like he's betrayed the fans. Now, the door's open to have that conversation. Apparently, Ineos are blocking United fans at the moment. But we've had 4 months of this sale, and there's been a week for Sir Jim to deny these rumours. He's got enough friends in the media to deny these rumours. And the reality is, Sir Jim Ratcliffe was talking about a full sale of the club. And now we're talking about half of the club and Avram and Joel staying. So I'm not dividing the fan base. Sir Jim's dividing the football club up between himself and the Glazers. I'm sorry, I'm not impartial on this. I don't want him to get hold of the football club. Do I think he will? I think he's got a good chance, because I think Joel and Avram are reluctant to sell. I'm not impartial on this. No, I want a full sale, and there's only one opportunity or choice there. I've never said I'm pro Qatar, and I'm not. I'm not, because ultimately there are issues around that that my eyes are wide open to. I think it's sad that Manchester United have to have a Manchester City type ownership, but that's the way football's going. But what I do want is a full sale, and I'm not impartial on this. As I said last night, I find it unpalatable, the media coverage, ex-player coverage, some fan coverage, that they've completely and utterly put their morals in. Talk about morals. They've put their morals in the sock drawer and hidden them. Like your Christmas socks that you wear in December. They've hidden them under that. As I say, it's incredible that as little as 2 weeks ago, some of these people were moaning about the Elliott Group and the Carlisle Group funding the Glazers to stay. And then Sir Jim basically has that plan, and they're being quiet about it because they just don't want Qatar that much. It feels like with some people, they're so adamant that we don't have Qatari ownership that they would rather Sir Jim buy half the club and keep Joel and Avram. And I'm like, God, is that how against Al Thani you are, that you would rather keep two people in this football club with power who've destroyed it over the last 18 years? So I'm not impartial on this. I want a full sale. That's same as the people who organised the protest, same as people who turned up for the protest, same as a lot of you. I want a full sale. There's only one option on a full sale. So I'm not impartial anymore. I want a full sale, and there's only one thing that represents that. I cannot for the life of me understand why people want Sir Jim to get hold of this club. I'll respect it because I don't like division in the fan base, but I'll tell you why I don't want it, and I just don't want somebody who clearly has got no interest in what's best for this football club or the fans of it, because they think they know best. It's a very arrogant approach to continue with the purchase and think they don't know what they're doing. The fans don't know what my plan is. I'll convince them. Well, no, I'm not a bloody sheep. I know what I want, and I don't want the Glazers to stay. I want a full sale. It's time for big change. What do I think is going to happen with it? I think the Glazers are undecided at the moment. Listening to a few people and speaking to a few people over the last couple of days, especially yesterday because we had the bank holiday on Monday. The deadline for the third bids was Friday at 10 o'clock. They all went in. it's now Wednesday. There's not been... I spoke to a journalist who's been very good around this yesterday, and they said, very surprised that we've had nearly 5 days since that deadline, and nothing's really coming through. And they said, I don't think the Glazers have made their mind up. I think they're stalling. I don't think they've made their mind up. Obviously, there's a good offer from Sir Jim, but they feel that they might be able to get more money out of Al-Thani, so they're undecided. And this is the thing, isn't it? You know, how committed were the Glazers to selling the club when they actually put it up for sale, or was it a fishing expedition? And what I mean by that is, we think we want to sell, but we might not want to. Let's put it up for sale and see what happens. And now you get into the business end of it, where you've got to make a choice. And I think they're undecided. Because I think they were undecided when they put it up for sale. I think they put it up. It's like having a house, isn't it? And thinking, I'm not sure whether we want to move, but let's see if anybody wants to buy our house. So you put it on the market, you see what your offers are, and then you're still undecided, and you're like, I don't know whether I want to move, but there's some good offers there. And I think that's what's going on with the Glazers. Would Weghorst even be 5th striker in the 99 team, says Sean from Ireland? I'd rather play Phil Neville up front. Andy Weatherall, thanks for your membership there. Thank you very much. We've spoken about Jack's point there. Thank you very much for that as well. Just a little bit of news, you might have seen it. Apparently Scott McTominay's going to be back in training soon. And a player I'd forgotten played for us actually in recent weeks. You know what? Just shows you how well we've done. Because whatever you think about McTominay, he is a player that sometimes starts a game, doesn't he? But certainly comes on in a game sometimes and gives you a little bit of height, which I think, you know, we sometimes do need. So, yeah, I think he's going to be back soon. McTominay normally plays quite well against West Ham, doesn't he? So I'm thinking Maguire and McTominay can probably get a bit of game time against West Ham. But Brighton, no thanks. No thanks. Scooby-Doo, says Key. Thank you very much. Lots of members in the chat today. Got Nengfield, Joe Tommy, CGI Future, Daniel619. I can see your badges. The walking yellow card, says Makish. Come on, Al-Thani, give them an offer they can't refuse, says James. Thank you. Also a member. Morals went out the window when we let the Glazers buy the club the way it was. If we want a Champions League final and a Premier League run, then we have to be relentless, says Duma. Thank you very much. Have you seen the Premier League table since the start of 2023, says Harrison Richards? I haven't, because I don't mind looking at that and praising a team like Aston Villa, because they probably would be near the top. But you know what? I think this happened under Solskjaer. There was a period in Solskjaer's reign where people used to talk about, wow, if the season started in January, we would be top of the league, Mark. And I'm like, yeah, but the season has always started in August and it always ends in May and we're second. You know, it's you know, if Robert was my mum's brother, Bob would be uncle, wouldn't he? You know, it's not. It's very obvious. Example to I messed that one right up. Example to get rid of the cancer in the club, you must get rid of all of it, not just 50%, says Daniel Alani. And hi Mark, would you give Avram a kiss if it meant he would sell the club, says Will. I love these literal choices that are never going to happen. Like, people say to me, like, you know, would you rather get rid of Martial or Weghorst? Well, get rid of both and get a better player in. Would you kiss Avram's arse to sell Manchester United? Well, it's never going to happen, is it? I don't think Avram Glazer's going to wake up this morning and go, I can stay and have 20% with my brother and Jim Radcliffe will have half, or I can sell to Al-Thani and we can just walk away. I'll tell you what will be a big decider for me, Joel, is if I walk to Old Trafford, take my pants down, bend over, and Goldbridge kisses my arse, I'll sell it to Qatar. Yeah, me too. We'll both do it. Yeah. It's never going to happen, is it? Would I do it? Well, it's never going to happen, so I don't need to answer it. Jason says, just take one for the team. Glazer statement incoming. Yeah. People have these funny... It's like last night on That's Football, we were talking about whether you'd rather get killed by a shark or a polar bear. And it got quite in-depth for 5 minutes because people were saying polar bears are evil and they'd actually play with you before they killed you, whereas a shark would probably bite your head off. And then I was thinking last night before I went to sleep, because I knew it was going to be in my head, I was thinking, what scenario are you going to be in where you've got to choose between a shark and a polar bear? Because if you're in the North Pole and there's a big bloody shark, there's a big polar bear running towards you, do great white sharks go where it's that cold? They don't even go to Cornwall. And I can go in the sea in Cornwall, but I can't go in the North Pole because I'll freeze to death. Short-term embarrassment for long-term success. People are thinking this through. CGI, thank you very much. Interesting. We always like to have a bit of humour on here, Daniel 619. What would I do? I would jump in the sea. I'd take a deep breath. I go like this, and at the last minute, I'll jump in the water, and try and drown myself. And then, even if I get ate by the shark, the joke's on them because I'm already dead. Can you do a live show in the North Pole? Says Robert. No, I don't go in the sea above my knee, deeper than my knee, and I'm not going to the North Pole. I won't even go to Iceland. One, because I can't stand Kerry Katona and her rubbish adverts, and two, you never know, you might see a polar bear in there. There's no money in this world that would get me in a shark cage because I know what would happen. You know, it's like tightrope walking when you're pissed. Like, why take the risk? Why take the risk? If I went to South Africa and people were like, "Great show, Mark," I can't do a South African accent. Tomato, I can't do it. Let's go great white shark diving in this safe cage. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. Hi Mark, thanks for all the fantastic work. You do think tomorrow we play position base or counter attack? Says Kurish. It's a great question. We played counter attack at Wembley, and Brighton with a better footballing side, but we ultimately didn't lose the game and then won it on penalties. I don't think we're ready to go toe to toe with Brighton. I think we've got better players, but I don't think we're ready to go toe to toe with Brighton. I don't think we are. I think even if Martinez and Varane were fit, we're still not as good as Brighton are in the transition from back to front. We're just not that team yet. So I think we will look to counter a bit. Jay, come on, Qatar, says Jay. Thank you very much. Ken says shark cage or overlap, but I would go on the overlap. That's Gary. You need to ask Gary that. Would you rather get in a shark cage or have a debate with Goldbridge? Because that's what he's scared of. It's not me. You know, overlap for me is like choosing have a debate with Gary Neville or have a lovely plate of lasagna. They're both very palatable to me. Al says it's sad that Brighton have got a stronger team, but Brighton have got a better structure. They've got a better CEO. They've got a better owner. They've got a better director of football. They've got a better recruitment team. I think this elitism in football needs to stop. Brighton are a better run club than Chelsea, Manchester United, Liverpool at the moment. You know, there's nothing sad about Brighton being better than us because you learn from it. Their recruitment's brilliant. Their sports development and, plans for future signings are probably 2 or 3 years ahead of us, even if we put it in play now. Got a better owner, as I say, and they've got players that suit their system. If Brighton lose their manager, I guarantee they've got another one lined up. If Brighton lose McAllister, I guarantee they've got someone else lined up. It's a system and it works really well. United aren't going to be at that point after 1 year under Ten Hag and instability with the ownership. So it doesn't make me sad that Brighton are a better club than us at the moment because it makes us understand. Man United are a bigger football club than Brighton, but it's a prime example of how you need to run your football club properly. But then the flip side of that is Brighton might be a better football club than us at the moment and play better football than us, but we're going to get Champions League football and we've won a trophy and they're not. So, you know, we've got to learn from things like that, in my opinion. Anyway, look, I could talk, as you know. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. We are back in 2 hours' time for Erik Ten Hag's press conference reaction, and it's me doing that, so make sure you tune back in. Thanks to all the members in the chat. Thanks to the people who joined the Members Club today. You can do that through the video, through the live chat, or just click the join button. One of you is a new member because Tracy Taylor's just gifted you one. Thank you very much, Tracy, you're a legend. And Red since 1975 says, as a very proud Welshman and my 5th birthday today, nothing gives me more pleasure than to see Jimmy Murphy being honoured today. And there, yeah, I wanted to finish on that anyway. Glazers over guitar, says Naz Pratt. Yeah, obviously we've mentioned it already, but Jimmy Murphy statue unveiled at Old Trafford this evening. I think it's about 5 o'clock. Brilliant. It's so important for who we are, what we are, and what we want to be. And Jimmy Murphy is absolutely intrinsically linked to the Manchester United, and certainly the Busby Babes, and all the work that went in after that horrible day in 1958. And it's well overdue, and it's fantastic that he's getting that statue today, because future generations are going to see. The thing about statues is that future generations who've got no knowledge or understanding of it will be like, who is that? And then that story gets told and told and told and told for generations. Martial or United should consider getting Vinicius fitness trainer, as we can see the result. The guy was referred to him by Ronaldo, says Quiet Minds. There you go. And A11 says, if Sir Jim Ratcliffe buys United, doesn't that mean the other Glazers get less than other Joel and Avram compared to if Sheikh buys, says A11. And Mark, just take Avram out for a curry, get him plastered and get him to sell United, says the Irish zombie. Well, I could do the old trick, couldn't I? I could ask him for his autograph on a bit of paper, and then when he signed it, open it up and say, look, it's a deed of selling Man United. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you in a couple of hours for the press conference reaction. Have a great day. Don't have a good day. Speak to you in a bit.